be small, they could be big, they could be huge, depending on the purpose. Okay, they could be huge. So, then what is the greenhouse effect? Basically because of this plastic, when they cover like that. Like here, for example, if sun is coming the other side, it enters here. When it gets back, it hits the window, then there is a reflection of radiation, the infrared radiation. That makes much more warmer. Okay, if you have a house that's facing south, your house will be much more warmer in the winter than the one facing the north. Basically, it's like that. Due to that greenhouse effect. Of course, then the greenhouse effect is similar. They are like similarly to that. Due to the gas released in the atmosphere, and they form layer around the Earth. And of course, when sun comes in, and when it hits the Earth, gets back, it gets reflected by all these gases that forms the layer around the atmosphere. Okay? Here, for example, the greenhouse, you see, sorry for the picture, because when you increase the size, they don't appear. I was fighting to make it clear, because if you put it smaller clear, this is greenhouse. They are made of glass. Okay, they are made of glass. Okay, then I told you that, okay? The reason that we use actually the greenhouse, basically, it helps during the winter to grow faster. Because you don't expose the plant to outside. Then outside it's cold, they don't flourish, they don't produce. Then inside they produce faster and they produce a lot. Okay? Due to what? By warming inside. Okay? Of course, they produce flower, for example, flowering. They produce, for example, like tomato, for example, in the winter, the one you buy everywhere, there are those ones. It's really huge, and this is really perfect. In terms of what? This environment is very, very well controlled. You can see that even the rain to pick up the tomato and so on.
Is it in aquaponics?
I'm sorry?
Is it in aquaponics?
This is hydroponic system, yes. Yeah, it's hydroponic because you can see, these boxes are made of mosses. Okay? These are made of mosses. Why there is this top over here? Because the guy is coming on the car and pick up the right one. It's easy. This is about how that is used, the purpose of the greenhouse. Of course, not only tomato, you have cucumber, you have pepper, you have even the grapes. They produce them this way. The one actually we have mostly around the winter, because normally the grapes, they are ready in September, August, September, and October. They are not ready in the spring. But they produce them this way due to that. Why? By warming inside. So, then the greenhouse effect concept has been, taken, extrapolated to the Earth, where similarly that layer around creates this environment on Earth. Of course, if it's getting warmer, consequences that change all the environment. They change a lot of things. Here is what is about the greenhouse effect, okay? Then basically this layer of gas. This gas actually mainly they are carbon dioxide, water vapor, you have methane, also some other chemicals. This is the main one. Of course, from this layer, the sun is coming, some they get reflected here, but when they enter, when they get back, they get returned. Okay? When they get returned, it warms. Same thing like here, as I told you before. This is basically the greenhouse effect. And when they get out, of course, most of them they get returned. This warms up the environment. That's what you have heard about, for example, ice melting, for example. Okay? Of course, it changes all the environment. Okay, well, let's talk just a little bit too much our need for our talking. What is a food chain? You know, like, anybody can tell me what is food chain? Yes?
One animal eats another animal, eats another animal, eats another animal.
And so on. Or? Yeah,
consumers eat producers, the consumers eat the producers, and the primary consumers.
Yeah. Okay. Basically, it's the sequence of feeding level. The sequence of feeding level that goes from the basic one, the producer, which are the plants. They are getting eaten by a consumer, primary consumer, secondary consumer, and so on. And this trophic level or feeding level, they are organized in food chain. These are the sequences. Okay, for example, here trophic level. Plants, they produce energy. Herbivorous, herb means plant, vorous means eater. Of course, they eat plant. Thus, they get carnivorous. They eat the herbivorous, and so on. Okay? This, of course, you can see, this is general picture. You have this, of course, this trophic level. We have them in the sea, in the ocean, in the aquatic environment. See that? Okay? Small organism. This is the algae, the producer. They catch the energy, they make food. The small one, they get eat that, and so on. One is eating another one. That are the trophic level or the food chain. And in the land, I have this example. Forget about it. We can talk, but it's not our purpose over here. As you can see here, for example, primary producer, they are plant. This plant, they get eaten by this insect, the grasshopper, and they think it's kind of mice, which in turn get eaten by the snake. You see? That's what we depend on each other. You see that? We depend on each other. Imagine this one is gone. This guy what's going to eat? It's too simple. Okay. If you don't have that, no more this, no more that. You see that it is kind of equilibrium gets broken. Okay, the environment, what we call the ecosystem. Okay. Now, what are the consequences of global warming on caribou? Okay, that's what we're talking in the beginning. This is our problem. As I said, of course, is gone. The consequences has been through that the food chain. The young calves do not have enough milk, as I told you, when they get born around May, June. Why the reason? Because, of course, I said they don't have food. Food as grass, as well as mom doesn't have enough food to produce milk. What we call the process of producing milk is called lactation, to produce milk for the young one. Okay, then the young one will starve. Why the reason? Because the grasses, since there is global warming, increase of 4 degrees Celsius, the plant they get ready earlier before the birth of the young calves. Consequences, of course, you have a lot of death. The mortality of calves is 4 times higher than it used to be. It's unbelievable. Okay? Then the population basically has been reduced greatly. Due to what, of course? I'm sorry, who found that? It's studied by many scientists. Okay, who spent many years, as I have just to mention that, you know, they spend 10 years and they become small people like that. But it has its importance. Okay? Then what do we have? Consequently, is big reduced population, big reduction in the population size. Right. Then this study, of course, has been done about one organism, which is the caribou, but this effect of global warming is about basically about many organisms. You may have learned about polar bear who lost his habitat because of melting ice. Birds for reducing source of food because they don't have too much insects to feed on. Basically, that's what we have. But there is kind of hope. What is the hope? Caribou, for caribou specifically, that's what we know. They have high ability to adapt for the change. Okay? This has been observed in the southwest Pacific Ocean. What did they observe? In the island called South Georgia, when they introduce over there this animal, the first year they get dead. Few years later, they get adapted to the same way, path they have before. Then basically they get adapted. In the beginning, they have much death. Later, they get adapted. They were very happy. Of course, no problem of too much death as it used to they have in the beginning. Basically, these two motion, they have good adaptation. Now, so far, there is really trouble because they get reduced. Are they going to adapt later? This, we have to wait. Okay, thank you very much.